Salam alaikum, misal khair, mahaba. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I am Andrew Card, a full-time member of the EPING training team, and this afternoon it's my pleasure to host this webinar on working from home effectively. First and foremost, I hope you, your families, friends, and colleagues are safe and well, and I wish you all a trouble-free and healthy future during this awful pandemic. During these times, I have returned to be home with my family. I'm speaking to you from the United Kingdom in the small town of Market Wheaton, East Yorkshire, which is about 15 miles south of York. And at this stage, I'll be in trouble if I don't give a shout out to my granddaughters, Lucy, Sophie, Izzy, and Livy. Hiya. Just before we start, I'd like to run through a few administrative points. You will note at the bottom of the screen there are chat, raise hands, question and answer tools. These are being managed by our team. Please post your questions as they arise, and I will answer them at the end of the webinar where we have a dedicated question and answer session. I've also created a couple of polls to get your ideas and feedback. Again, our team will post these throughout the webinar. We will make this presentation available after the webinar, but you might like to take some notes as we progress. So lastly, if you want to grab a paper and pen or some other methods to take notes, I'll pause for a minute to get you to do that. Okay, let's start. Just to set the scene, for those of you who know me, you may also know that over 20 years ago, I was a British Army officer. At the time, I was working with probably the best team in the world, with seemingly infinite administrative support and access to an endless supply of resources. Now, when I left the services in 1999, the military door closed very quickly. And almost overnight, I found myself working from home in my back bedroom all alone. I had to literally restructure my working day, reprogram my mindset, and adapt quickly to my new working environment. I guess most of you now find yourselves in a similar situation today, moving from well-established routines of working in the office to a new routine of working from home. I would therefore like to share with you what I have learned working predominantly from home over the last 20 years. Now, the 4 areas I wish to cover during this webinar include the best way to stay focused and maximize productivity, how to stick to your schedule and maintain contact with your co-workers, how to maintain good physical and mental health, and how to keep a positive outlook during these difficult times. What I'd like to do now is get your initial feedback and let me know which one of these 4 areas you find most challenging. So if you could just take time to complete the poll, that would be most helpful. Thank you. Oh, wow. So I can see quite overwhelmingly that staying focused and maximizing productivity is your key area of concern. So that's very helpful. But what I'll do, which is my first session, I'll endeavor to spend a little bit more time focusing on that area so you can get the most out of the webinar. Thank you for completing, Nicole, and thank you for your feedback. So let's move on then. Let's move on to that first session where you obviously are finding it difficult in your new ways of working. So the best ways to stay focused and maximize productivity. First and foremost, what I would encourage you to do is create what I call a home office. Now, when you're working from home, it's important to set clear boundaries between your work and your regular home life. Whether it's a desk in a specified home office or a spot at the kitchen table, designate an area that you specifically use for work-related activities. Pick a place in your home that's quiet, well lit, comfortable, and spacious enough so that you can spread out any materials you need to complete your work. Now, ideally, and if it's at all possible, set aside a dedicated room for work, a space where you can close the door, shut everything else out, allowing you to primarily focus on your work. Most importantly, when identifying this area, avoid working in places where you would normally relax or sleep, like the sitting room couch, your favorite chair in the TV room, and especially avoid working from your bedroom. Secondly, pretend you are in the office. Have a strong mindset of although that you're working from home, you're mentally still at work. There's a big difference between working from home and being at home. Develop protocols and routines that help you adapt and practice a workplace mindset. Thirdly, communicate expectations with others. You're now working from home, but you still may have company in the house. Make sure your spouses, children, siblings, parents, and yes, even your pets all respect your operating space during working hours. Just because you're working from home doesn't mean to say you are readily available. Set ground rules and boundaries and ask for your family's commitment to support you that will allow you to focus and not be distracted whilst working. The fourth piece of advice I've got for you is dress like if you were going to work. You may be tempted to work in your pajamas every day to be relaxed, save time, and of course, keep down on the laundry. But by taking the time to get dressed, it can help you get into the right mindset for work. Even if you aren't going anywhere or not planning on a video conference with your boss or colleagues, put on some appropriate clothing so that you don't always feel that you're in relaxation mode. This doesn't mean to say you have to put on normal working clothes, although that if it helps, it's fine if you want to get into the right zone. Just put on some clean, appropriate daytime clothes that will help you get into that zone. It's also important to take time to attend to the rest of your grooming to feel fresh and get ready for work. Take a shower, brush your teeth and hair, and do any other things that you would normally do to prepare for work at a day in the office. Declutter your workspace. Get rid of anything that you don't need while you're at work. Now, family photos and small personal belongings are okay, but anything else should be put away in another room, or at least away from your workspace. You need to create a clean space that's free from distractions. Now, at the end of the day, do some basic maintenance to your organization system and make sure any work-related materials are put away properly. This way, when you arrive the next morning, you won't be confronted with a mess and waste time tidying things up. If your workspace does tend to get cluttered or messy, set aside 15 minutes at the end of each day for tidying up. The next point, keep your work supplies close by. Arrange your work area with the office tools that you need, such as your computer, printer, stationery, and any other documents or tools that you'll need to complete your scheduled work. Place items where they'll be easily accessible and you can find them immediately when you need them. If you find yourself getting up regularly to search for an item such as a pair of scissors or a pen, move those items permanently into your workspace. Other items you may choose to have close by may include a power extension, chargers for your electronic devices, a pad of paper and pen for jotting down notes, drinking water, and healthy snacks. All these ideas are designed not to help you to have to constantly leave your work area, so therefore you can stay focused and productive. Now that I've explained the basic roles for setting up a home office, if you're not already there, what I would like you to do now is move to the office space you are considering working from home. Please take the device you are viewing this webinar with you, otherwise you won't be able to hear me. I'll just pause there for a couple of minutes while you go to your workspace if you're not already there. Okay, thank you. Hopefully you're now in your designated workspace and you've taken your device with me so you can still hear me. What I want to do now is focus on removing distractions, both visual and audible. So sight and sound distractions. Rather than listening to me, let's watch a short video that will help us move these potential distractions.
Yet there are two trouble areas when it comes to working from home: sight and sound. It's very common to have little visual or audible distractions that pop up at home. To help you become aware of these distractions, which you may be enduring every day, I'd like you to do a little exercise with me. Find a timer of any type and set it for 2 minutes. During the 2 minutes, sit quietly in your workspace and pay attention to what you see and what you hear. Write down anything that comes to your attention that might be a potential distraction. Pause this video, sit quietly for 2 minutes looking and listening for distractions, and return after you've completed that and written everything down. Did you do it? Great. Let's talk about some common things that may have popped up and some solutions for them. Can you look over your desk and see people walking by? Or even worse, see something like a TV screen showing commercials, news, and sports scores? If possible, try to create a visual barrier beyond your desk. One option is to place your workspace in a corner of a room. While it may be more aesthetically attractive to have a desk in the center of a room, it's often less functional. It's better to work in a corner wall where you can't be visually distracted. At the very least, put up a visual barrier, such as a temporary room divider. What about the lighting of your workspace? Are you able to see everything clearly? It's good to have a little indirect light to the side of you. Avoid having direct light behind you, especially if you're looking into a computer monitor. This will cause glare and eye strain. But be cautious. Every window is an opportunity for visual distraction of what's happening outside. If you're often getting distracted by things that are outside, then you may want to close the shades or even consider using a translucent covering that allows light through but obscures visual distraction. Now, what about sound? When you listen, did you notice sounds from children in the house or nearby construction or a dog barking outside? The ideal solution is to select a soundproof office away from sources of noise. Yet, I recognize that's not practical for most people working from home. You can do two things, however. One, perhaps the simplest, is to use a set of headphones. Some people are more productive while listening to music. But if you're like me and find that music is distracting to you, then use a white noise generator or a white noise track. For example, on my phone, I have a 10-hour track of waterfalls. It helps me stay focused and simply drowns out all the other distractions. If you don't want to wear headphones for extended periods of time, perhaps use larger speakers or a simple white noise generator, like a fan. One home-based entrepreneur I coached was constantly distracted by his children running around outside. While he wanted them to be able to come and get him in case of a true emergency, the rest of the time it was just distraction and noise that pulled him from what he should be doing. He got an inexpensive fan and put it in his office, and the accompanying white noise drowned out the harmless but distracting sounds of his children playing. Any visual or audible distraction that you identify is an opportunity to improve productivity. By taking just a little time to create barriers in your home workspace, you'll gain significant time and focus in the long run.
Okay, hopefully you found the video useful. Please post any questions you may have regarding distractions to me for me to answer at the end of the webinar. So let's move on then. The second point that I want to focus on with you is scheduling your day. And what you need to do is set a daily schedule and stick to it. Keeping a consistent schedule is an important part of working from home successfully. Decide what your daily work hours will be and set that time aside just for work. Try to choose hours that will work well for you. For example, if you're a morning person, you might choose to start a little earlier in the day so that you're energized and you can begin working on those high priority tasks, or vice versa. If you normally wake a little later in the day, start a little later. Set time aside to do a prioritized to-do list for the day. Now, before you start work, take half an hour or so to plan out your day. Write out a list of tasks that you need to complete, placing the most important or more complex task at the top of your list. For the start of the day, when you are potentially at your most productive, leave those high priority tasks or leave them in. As you complete each task, take a moment to cross it off to indicate that it's complete. This will help you stay motivated during the day as you're able to track the progress that you are making. Block out specific times for each task. Now, you can also break larger tasks down into smaller chunks. Instead of writing on your to-do list, complete a report, you might break it down into smaller steps and allocate the anticipated time it might take for each step. For example, if we're using complete a report, item 1 might be conduct your research, what will take 30 minutes. Produce an agenda, which will take another 30 minutes. Create an outline, maybe 20 minutes. Draft the report, maybe 60 minutes. Check and edit the report, maybe a further 20 minutes. So a potential 2-hour, 40-minute tasks, produce a report, becomes 5 smaller, more manageable tasks where you can track progress, maintain productivity, and stay motivated. Now, we've talked about distractions, but also think about avoiding or other distractions to avoid. Avoid social media and other such distractions. Distractions around the home can be a huge productivity killer, as we just witnessed in the video. To help yourself maintain a productive routine, please put away your phones or other time-wasting websites like Facebook and YouTube while you're working. Also, avoid working around other sources of distractions such as TVs, radios, Alexa, or Siri. A good tip would be to consider installing a browser extension application on your phone or computer. This is to keep you away from time-wasting applications and websites. Applications like Stay Focused or Strict Workflow are great for helping you keep on task. Very basically, what you do is you put in the time that you are intending to work, you allocate your break time, and when you're at work, it will block all of those unnecessary applications that could be a potential distraction. Also, as we've already established, if you share your home with other people, explain to them that you need time to be left alone when you're working. In addition, ask your friends to keep social calls and texts to an absolute minimum during your working hours. You may also wish to notify family and friends of your scheduled break times or when it's most convenient to call or message. So we've looked at some things to stay focused and maximize productivity. What I now want to move on to is the second point, is how to stick to your schedule and maintain contact with your co-workers. Now, how to stick to our schedule then, my fourth point in today's webinar. First and foremost, pick a definitive start and finishing time each day. Now, you might be under the impression that working from home establishes more work-life balance, but be careful with that assumption. My experience is when working from home in a relaxing environment, you can get caught up in an activity and you can completely lose track of time. Start work as you normally would and maintain a regular routine. Set an alarm at the end of the day to indicate that your normal workday is coming to an end. You don't have to stop exactly on time, but knowing the workday is technically over can help you start the process of saving your work, calling it a day, and making that transition between work and home. Let's just watch another short video that helps us understand this concept a little better.
Network, what is the #1 challenge you experience while working from home? This question received tens of thousands of views and hundreds of replies. The most common issue that people experience, an inability to disconnect themselves mentally and emotionally and occasionally physically from work. Many people who work from home feel they have no boundary. Rather than working less hours while at home, they work more. Working endlessly like this is a bit like being a hamster running on a continuous treadmill. Let's get you off that treadmill and get you into the mindset of a race. Unlike a treadmill, a race has a starting line and a finish line. There is a clear beginning point and a clear end point. You also want to create a clear starting line and a clear finish line to your day. Many people who work from home are not given established work hours by their employer. Typically, there's a great deal of freedom and flexibility. You want to take that freedom and flexibility and make a conscious choice about your working hours, and then stick to them. Let's start at the beginning of the race. What is your starting line? To answer this question, think about your sleep and health needs. The average person needs about 7 to 9 hours per night to function in a healthy manner each day. The more consistent you can be at when you get these hours of sleep, the better the benefit of sleep will be to you. Let's assume you're in the middle, that you need 8 hours of sleep each day. Let's say that you can fairly consistently go to sleep at a reasonable hour of 10:30 each night. That means you'll need to wake up at 6:30 each day. From there, consider how much time it's going to take for you to get ready, to eat breakfast, to do whatever it is you need to do in the morning. After considering all that, let's say that you determine your starting line for each day is going to be 2 hours after you wake up, so 8:30 a.m. You want to create an appointment in your calendar every single workday just before 8:30, so 8:25, titled Starting Line. This establishes when your workday begins. Now, let's consider the more challenging step, creating your finish line. At what time each day are you going to turn your brain off about thinking about work? What is the point at which you're going to say, I'm finished, I won the race for today, and I won't start it up until tomorrow? For example, personally, my finish line is at 5 o'clock each day. At 5, I no longer check email messages or do work-related activities. That may be unrealistic for you, so start somewhere. If you've been in the habit of working until 8 every night, then perhaps establish your finish line at 7:30 p.m. In that way, it helps you stretch just a little bit, but is a reasonable expectation. Whatever finish line you want to establish, create a brief, recurring appointment in your calendar that work ends at that time. We're not done yet, though. I found those who work from home find it difficult to make the mental transition from work to personal or family life. When you work from home, you lack the natural transition that those who travel to work have, a commute. The travel time from the office to home gives you the ability to decompress and stop thinking about work. So you'll likely want to create your own mental commute. I call it transition time. So for my personal example, since my finish line is at 5 p.m. each day, then I also schedule transition time at 4:30 each day, giving me a half an hour to decompress from work. For my transition time, I play video games. It helps clear my mind. Find something that works for you and clears your mind, like listening to an audiobook or watching a Netflix show or going for a jog, whatever works for you. Find an activity that signals to your mind and body it's time to stop work and it's time for your brain to calm down. Sometimes you'll want to have start and finish times, not just to your day, but to your weeks and your months. For instance, you might say that your finish time on Friday starts at 5 p.m. and extends all the way until your start time on Monday at 8:30, meaning you won't allow yourself to do any kind of work over the weekend. Or if you're someone who travels frequently and has some control over your schedule, you might create a maximum amount of time that you're going to be away from home. As a public speaker, I limit the number of days that I travel a month to no more than 8. Create a plan that makes sense for you. The point is, you have control over your schedule. You can create the boundaries for yourself. Once you create those boundaries, respect them. As you do that, you will find that you have greater focus and greater ability to be productive during your daily race.
Good. Again, I hope you found the video useful, and key concepts there about setting a schedule, start times, finishing times, and transition times, all key parts or key things to bear in mind when working from home. So let's move on then. What I now like to talk about is working at when you are at your most productive. Now, nobody sprints through their work from morning to evening maintaining high energy levels. Your motivation and your energy levels will naturally ebb and flow throughout the day. Now, when you're working from home, it's important to know when those ebbs and flows will take place, when you're at your physical and mental best, and when you're at your physical and mental lows, and plan your schedule around it. Capitalize on the most productive periods. Save your harder tasks for when you're in the right frame of mind, using the slower times in your day to tackle those easier, simple tasks that you may have. Now, what I want to do here is introduce a concept that some of you may or may not have heard before, called the circadian rhythm. Now, your circadian rhythm is basically your internal body clock, It keeps your biological process in step and in sync. Now, this cycle lasts for about 24 hours. In fact, the term circadian derives from the Latin that literally means around the day. Your brainwave patterns, hormone production, cell regrowth, and other key biological activities are all linked to this cycle. Your circadian rhythm plays a key role in things like when you sleep and when you wake. Your normal circadian clock is set by the circle of light and dark, night and day over a 24-hour period. When your circadian rhythm is out of sync, it can cause problems with your sleep, productivity, and ultimately your health. It's important, therefore, for you to maintain regular work patterns when working from home and not be tempted to work when you feel like it. This could adversely affect your circadian rhythm and ultimately impact upon your productivity. Building time for breaks. As the video has already explained and as I've said previously, you can get so easily engrossed in your work that you can forget or avoid breaks altogether. Don't let the guilt of working from home prevent you from taking time to relax. Schedule and take regular breaks. When taking breaks, rather than just opening up YouTube or watching your favorite series on Netflix, use your breaks to get away from your desk. Go for a walk outside if you can, or make contact with others in the house that might be with you. Identify non-work tasks that help you create and maintain a good work-life balance. So it's crucial to build in those regular breaks and get away from your desk to maintain the momentum and keep your energy levels up. Incentivize and reward yourself. The last way to help you stick to your schedule is create compelling incentives for yourself. There's a few ways you can do this. Try giving yourself a reward for the work that you do. For instance, if you spend time working for an hour or you complete a difficult task, have a break for a cup of coffee and a biscuit. Or once you have finished a difficult or complex task, you can take time out to do something less taxing and more creative. The rewards don't have to be big and lavish. They just have to be things that you want to do. Now, if rewards aren't a powerful enough incentive for you, try using penalties for yourself instead. For example, if you don't complete a set task, you can't watch your favorite TV show that evening. But just think about ways of rewarding yourself for work completed. It breaks the day up and it keeps your energy and motivation levels high. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is remaining in contact with your bosses, your co-workers, and those of you who are customer facing, your clients. First and foremost, use technology to stay connected. Working from home, you might focus on your short-term work, but you can also feel cut off and distant from the larger operation happening in the office. Instant messaging and video conferencing tools can make it easy to check in with co-workers and remind you of how your work is contributing to the bigger picture. Also consider setting up chats groups for ease and speed of communication. Now, I probably don't need to tell most of you, but popular tools include WhatsApp, Skype, Microsoft, Team, Zoom, and Soho. Now, perhaps you can share what tools you are currently using when you're working remotely, and perhaps you can make recommendations with the chat tool when we discuss and share ideas at the end of the webinar. Next, keep a professional tone with your co-workers and clients. Even though you're working from home instead of the office, it's still important to treat your work like work. When you communicate with your bosses, fellow employees, and clients, speak to them in the same way that you would if you were working on site. In other words, stay courteous, polite, and professional. Edit your emails and other written communications carefully to avoid any grammar or punctuation errors. Respond to calls, chat communications, and emails in a timely manner. This will let your bosses, co-workers, and clients know that you are taking the time from working from home, but taking their needs seriously and meeting their requirements. Check in frequently with your employer and co-workers. Now, staying in the loop and keeping lines of communication open are important when working from home. Check in with your boss regularly. Ideally, agree and set times and the frequency for communications up front. Give updates on how you're doing. Ask questions you may have and find out if there are any new developments that you should know about. Take advantage of multiple forms of communication such as email, chat, and video conferencing, as we've already discussed. Staying in touch effectively and regularly continues to demonstrate your professionalism, but can also help working from home feel less lonely and isolating. Avoid dealing with work-related matters after work hours, and that links into what we was talking before about setting start times and finishing times. Blurring the boundaries between work time and downtime and getting out of that work mode is really important. Close your work chat program, start checking your business emails, and let work calls go to voicemail. Dedicate the time to relaxing and spending time with your family and taking care of the tasks that aren't work related. Similarly, don't let your personal life bleed into your work time. Avoid chatting with friends and doing time-consuming household chores while you're supposed to be working. Again, making that distance and making that break between work and home. So we've looked at how to stick to your schedule and maintain contact. What I'd now like to spend some time on is looking at how to maintain good physical and mental health. First and foremost, leave your home for short periods of time when you can. If you spend your entire day working and not working from home, you can quickly get sick of being there. Make a point of getting out during your downtime. Obviously, be sure to observe local social distancing rules and any curfews that may apply or applicable to the country that you're working in. This is really important. Schedule physical activity into your daily routine. Exercise is important for your physical and mental health. Sitting in your work area for hours at a time every day will eventually lead to fatigue, a lack of motivation, and disinterest. Keep yourself healthy by making time to get moving, even if it's just a 15-minute walk after lunch. Get a little exercise during the day can boost your mood and help you feel more energetic. This can lead to greater levels of motivation and therefore greater levels of productivity. Take movement breaks during your work. Try to get up at least once an hour and move around a little. Do some light stretching, pace around the room, or even go for a quick walk outside if convenient and permitted. Moving around occasionally will help energize you, promote better circulation, and improve your mood and productivity levels. You can even use breaks to get quick chores done around the house, like taking out the trash or checking the mail. Let's watch another short video that gives you some tips on taking movement breaks.
Today's turbulent work culture is completely at odds with how we create that. Most of us who are office-bound are sedentary because we spend most of our days sitting in a chair. When we're working, but simultaneously sitting, the mind and the body are getting mixed signals. Sitting tells the body that it is in rest mode, so both the mind and body start to power down to relax. However, if you're working while sitting, your mind still needs to be highly active, which is against what the body is telling it to do. Working in an office means that every day we're constantly battling spiraling mental exhaustion and impaired productivity. Did you know that if one sits too much, over time, their brain could look like someone with dementia? Research has also shown that sitting all day increases the risk of anxiety and depression. Yikes! It turns out that being physically inactive drains our brain power, which creates a huge barrier between us and our great ideas. In stark contrast, research shows that movement and exercise can increase neuroplasticity, the brain's natural ability to create new neural networks and connections. When the body is in motion, the brain does its best thinking and ideating. But this isn't new information. For ages, people have been using movement and exercise to stimulate creative thinking, new ideas, innovation, and optimal cognitive function. It's just that now we have neuroscience to confirm that moving your body does indeed boost brain power. Researchers at Stanford have found that walking in particular is one of the easiest and most effective ways to increase creativity at any moment of the day. They found that we are twice as likely to come up with a creative solution while moving than sitting down, and that a person's creative output increased a full 60% while walking. The study also found that our creative juices continue to flow for a while after we walk, even once we sit back down. But it's not just walking that will move you into a more creative state. Any cross-channel movement where the four quadrants of the body are moving, like running, walking, swimming, or biking, will stimulate and then balance the hemispheres of the brain and facilitate the transfer of information back and forth, leading to creative thinking and insights. The studies also found that walking and other similar movement is especially effective at the beginning stages of the creative process, as it encourages divergent thinking. Many speculate that it is partially due to seeing and hearing new things, meeting new people, and seeing people interact that provides more dots to connect and information to add to the storehouse of information already in our heads. This creative dose is called Get Moving. When your brainstorming feels tired, frustrated, stressed, or otherwise stagnant, get your blood pumping. Stand up, do some jumping jacks, run around the parking lot, or anything to get your blood pumping. Put on some of your favorite songs and dance. Jump onto your bike and take a quick spin around the neighborhood. And of course, you can take a walk, but deliberately wander around randomly to come up with more ideas. But don't just stop there. Make a concentrated effort to figure out how you can incorporate movement into your regular workday. Here are some ideas. Take the stairs during a conference call. Get a treadmill desk. Get a standing desk. Hold standing meetings and brainstorming sessions, or even hold walking meetings. If you want creativity on demand, it means cultivating as much movement as you can throughout your workday. The more you move your body throughout the day, the more calmly active your brain will become, and the easier ideas will come to you.
Okay, again, I hope you found the video useful. Obviously, it was filmed in times where we had less restrictions, but I think the key idea of taking movement breaks during work is really important and something to take on board. Okay, also make time for healthy meals and snacks. It can be easy to forget to eat and drink when you're wrapped up in work and staying well focused and well nourished will help you keep healthy and improve your energy levels. Eat a healthy breakfast before you start work. And make sure to take a lunch break every day. Keep a supply of healthy snacks close by. And don't forget to drink water throughout the day, since being dehydrated can cause you to feel fatigued and would lead to you being unfocused. The last thing under physical and mental health is, this is a great opportunity for personal development. There are many downsides to our current situation. But with most of us now not commuting to work, think about it logically. Most of us, especially my friends in Bahrain, probably commute an hour to and from work most days. So an hour to work and an hour back from work. So 2 hours a day. Just think about that logically. A couple of hours a day, that's 10 hours a week. That's 40 hours a month. That's 5 whole days. Put this time to good use. Learn a new skill. Develop yourself professionally. Think about a new hobby. Consider learning a new language or playing a musical instrument. I personally, much to my wife's dismay, have started to play the harmonica. Not very well, I might add. These extracurricular activities will help you stay alert and motivated, not to mention the overall benefits of personal growth and development. Make this extra time work for you and to your advantage. 5 days a month for your personal development. Okay, so we've looked at how to maintain good physical and mental health. The last thing I want to do, my last subject on this short seminar today, is to talk about keeping a positive outlook during these difficult times. Now, we have a seminar on stress, so I'll keep this session to a minimum, as our friend and colleague Mark Nevins will be conducting a webinar which he's entitled Staying Resilient Under Stress, and that's going to take place on Thursday the 9th of April at 4:30 Bahrain time. And he will give more help and advice on this topic. But as I've included it in my schedule, I just want to run through 4 key points that I would like you to consider in maintaining a positive outlook. Now, new reports about COVID-19 are becoming more widespread and making some people a little bit more anxious. Now, here are some simple tips and techniques that will help you manage your anxiety, put those news reports in perspective, and help you maintain a positive outlook. First of all is do exactly that. Keep things in perspective. Take a deep breath and remind yourself that most people who contract COVID-19 will only experience mild symptoms. Work is being done to help people who are more vulnerable to the coronavirus, such as senior citizens and those with underlying health conditions. But most people experience mild symptoms and recover fully. Get the facts. It's important to adopt a more analytical approach as you follow news reports about the coronavirus. Verify information that you receive from family, friends, and yes, social media. All those fake news, as Trump would say. Make sure that you're taking that analytical approach and making sure that the facts are accurate. Use reputable information from our local or regional public health agencies. The Ministry of Health in Bahrain is publishing circulars on an almost daily basis to keep us informed and let us know what we're doing. Even go to your family doctor to seek professional medical guidance and advice. Keep connected. Maintaining social networks can foster a sense of normality and provide valuable outlets for sharing feelings and relieving stress. You can maintain these connections without increasing your risk of contracting the virus by talking on the phone, texting or chatting with people, or using social media platforms. Feel free to share useful information that you find on government websites with your family and friends. It will help them deal with their anxiety in their own way. And lastly, for individuals that are feeling overwhelmed and nervous and with a lingering sadness at these difficult times, you should consult a trained and experienced mental health professional. Psychologists and other appropriate mental health providers can help people deal with extreme stress. And as I said before, Mark Nevins will talk more about stress as we go through these difficult times together. Okay, so what have I talked about today? Well, we've looked at 7 key areas. We've talked about creating a home office and some of the protocols and disciplines that you need to focus on there. We've also talked about the importance of scheduling your day and avoiding distractions. The fourth thing we talked about is sticking to your schedule, creating that routine, those start times, those end times, and those transition times. We've talked about the importance of remaining in contact with your co-workers, your bosses, and your clients, and using different methods and media to do that in an effective way. And we've looked at considering your physical and mental health, how to stay physically and mentally alert during these difficult times when you're working from home. And lastly, I've touched very briefly on maintaining a positive outlook during these difficult times. Now that gives us about 10 minutes for me just to take any questions that you may have. Now, I am to technology what coronavirus is to social contact. So I'm hoping now that something's going to pop up and I'm going to see something on my screen and I can answer any questions that you may have. No. Question and answers. Way. No question. Have been great. Well, I don't know who that was from, but MB, thank you very much. MB, whoever you are, thank you very much. That means a lot to me. Manira, hi Andrew, hope you and your family are well. Yes, Manira, thank you very much. Lovely to hear from you. Thank you for taking part in the session. And yes, we're all well. And the same to you and your family too, Manira. Lovely to hear from you. Rana, thanks for the session. Rana, you're very, very welcome. Mohammed, great and really informative, appreciated. You're very, very welcome, Mohammed. Zainab, thank you. Thank you so much. Very helpful. Thank you, Zainab. Fatima, yeah, thank you. And you stay safe well as Fatima. Mariam, you're very welcome. Zara, you're very, very welcome. Hussein, you're very welcome. Yep. Ramla, yes, stay safe too. Ramla, I think you and I need to talk offline as well. I'll be calling you tomorrow. Raymond, just tidying my workspace. Thank you. Well, about time too. That's well overdue, Raymond. Dua, yes, thank you. Salman, thank you. Very helpful. You're very welcome. How difficult? So here's a question. So all the kind plaudits, thank you very much indeed. A question from Niall. How difficult do you find it sticking to your schedule? It is difficult now, and what it is about is self-discipline. And it's creating that schedule, avoiding those distractions, creating those start and finishing lines and that transition time. And it's about that mindset, but it's not easy. You know, as I said before, you know, in a former life, I was a British Army officer, and, you know, it was all about, you know, contact, support and schedules. And then literally almost overnight working in my back bedroom, you know, taking on that new mindset and that new schedule. It didn't work for the first 2 or 3 weeks, but I guess it's about creating new routines, forming new habits, and being self-disciplined now. So hopefully that helps there. So I think the message is create a routine and do your very best to stick to it. Rob, yeah, good. Thank you, Rob. Batul, you're very welcome. Lulwa, you're very welcome. Noor, you're very welcome. You stay safe too. Mariam, lovely to hear from you. I miss you and the risers. Yep, thank you very much. Seema, do you think organizations will consider WHF? I don't know what that means. WHF. Am I being? Do you think organizations are part of the operational process after the corona? Oh, working from home. How silly am I? I've just twigged on what that means. I don't know. I think some of the good things, it's a really good question, Seema. And I think there's a lot of negativity going around at the moment. And I was just talking with one of my colleagues this morning about this very subject. I think there's a lot of negativity going around. There's a lot of bad things happening, but there's also a lot of good things happening. And I think about things socially. Think about how how we were not together globally. And so in terms of society, I think that this virus is a common cause there, and it's seeing a greater good that's happening. So I think socially, I think in terms of health, you know, I'm seeing people, you know, taking health a little bit more seriously when they're working from home. So to your question, I think people are now realizing that actually you can still get your work done and be productive working from home. And some of the bigger organizations, these head offices that they spend, you know, thousands and probably tens of thousands of dinars a year on maintaining, do we need them? So I think it's a really good observation, Seema. You know, will organizations consider working from home as part of the operational process after the corona crisis ends up? I think some organizations will give real consideration to that. Mona, thank you, Mona. Nice to see you remotely too. Abdurrahman Ahmed, coming from a martial arts background, I really appreciate the emphasis on keeping active during a time when everything points towards laziness. Much appreciated, Andrew. Yeah, great point, Abdurrahman. Yes, well done. Lovely to hear from you as well. Salman, thank you for a great session. Wish you and your family to be safe. Me too, right back at you. Noel Murphy, being an army officer, did it help being disciplined? Well, I think that's a yes, Noel. Following up on the previous question that you posted, yes, obviously a military background does help with self-disciplining and following routines. So if you're not from that background, it probably will be a little bit more difficult. But having said that, again, just, you know, setting the routine and being disciplined and sitting to it, I think will be helpful. Hussein, thank you. How do you deal with calls when you receive in any time at home? How do you deal with how to deal with calls which you receive in? Yeah, I think what you're saying there, Hassan, if I've got the if I've got the gist of what you're saying there, how do you deal with calls at any time? I think it's difficult because in this instant age of communication, you know, basically anybody feels they can call you anytime. So again, setting these deadlines, saying, I have finished work now, you know, diverting your work phone, not looking at your emails, not answering chats. Now, depending on the nature of the business and what you're doing and the demands that are being placed on you, you may have to answer some calls out of work hours. But I seriously believe, especially when working from home, that it's more important that you maintain that discipline and you make that split between home and work. Otherwise, you're just going to be on call 24/7, which is not healthy and will lead actually in the longer term to a lack of productivity. So Hussein, hopefully that answers your question. Hamid, my question might be a little bit off the topic, but can we expect some jobs to stay working from home? Or to, yeah, and I think we've already answered that question a little bit earlier on, Hamid. I think some bosses, some organizations will actually see the true benefits of working from home, where people can be more focused and more productive. So I think, you know, one of the positive things that may come out of this awful situation is that, you know, trusting people and giving them the space to work from home and be more productive might be part of the future. And I think I'm at the bottom of the list now. I've done really well here. The first time I've used that question and answer facility. So I guess I'll just give it a couple more minutes because in my normal military fashion, Niall, it was an hour's seminar and it's now 15:29. That's in the UK. So that's 3:30, 5:30 in Bahrain. So I've literally finished bang on time. Great work, Pops. Now that for me, Pops, that's what my granddaughters call me. So I started with a shout out to Lucy, Livy, Sophie and Izzy. So I guess I should finish in that same manner. Thank you, Michael, who is my son. Right. Okay, guys, and I don't think there are any more questions. I think I've gone through them. There is an evaluation poll. So when this webinar finishes, automatically an evaluation poll will pop up. It would be great for you to fill that in so we can build on our webinars and we can learn from, you know, what is quite a new technology for most of us. It's a very difficult experience for me. Most of you who know me as a trainer in a classroom, responding to you in a very physical way. Trying to connect with you remotely has been a has been an experience for me, and so anything that we can do better, anything that we can learn from, I'm sure we'll be well informed. Just a little shout out as well. On Wednesday, the 8th of April at 1:30 Greenwich Mean Time. So again, that's 4:30 Bahrain time, 2:30 UK time. Our friend and colleague Stan Phelps is going to deliver another webinar on 10 ways to drive employee engagement during a crisis. Last but not least, guys, I'd just like to thank you all for your continued support, cooperation, and understanding during these difficult times. Stay safe, take care, look after each other, and I will see you all soon back in Bahrain, inshallah. Mas alama.